Well, good morning, everyone. How are you? I missed you. Now, Sunday morning, we had a super fun show for True Crime Beat for her birthday. Yes, we did. The prize that Susan and Blackwing Paranormal One, WON, is the gift that keeps giving. So if you're not a member, you might want to grab yourself a handy dandy membership and get over there and check it out. And look at the screen. Someone cannot go missing without someone knowing something somewhere. That is a fact, Jack. That is a fact. It was a lot of fun. You're exactly right, True Crime Beat. I was told by several of you, okay, and this is not going to be an argument at all, that Profiling Evil did a show about Summer. Are there some mistakes in the show? Yes. Does he follow it like we do? No. Am I happy that he did the show? Yes. Yes. Just like I was happy about Dr. Phil. I call the glass half full, okay? Oh yeah, speaking of, let's look at my poll. 6% of you said, nah, I'm good. You don't want to hit the like or plan to hype. That's got Pat K written all over it. Damn it. Damn it. I am happy about the show because I don't think there's enough people talking about a missing little girl from East Tennessee. I just don't. We know the crazy stuff Candace does. We know the crazy stuff Dawn does. We know about the neighbors. We know about Fred and Ziggy eating up our oxygen and the fucking airwaves all the time, talking about themselves. We got all that. And I plan to change that on this channel. I do. Summer is not talked about. She's not. The actual bare bones of the case are very rarely discussed. So yes, I was happy that Profiling Evil put it out. Let's take a second and tell everybody good morning. And remember, you are judge and jury here, not me. By the way, Mike has been invited to come on the show, and we will see if he pops up. Remember, it's an invite, not a promise. Okie Bree said, oh, well, that explains why I can't find it. What can't you find, baby? What you looking for? What are you looking for? Well, we missed Notabolism Monday, but today is Taco Tuesday, and we are live and shit.
It's fucking live, you dumbass.
No, it's not.
It is.
No, it isn't.
Can't stop.
Okay, whatever. Play your little game, Donnie.
All right, I'm gonna have to go. She don't think we're live and shit, okay? And she's fucking going off and acting like an alcoholic. I have to get off here now.
That's fine.
I
Thank you
appreciate
so much
y'all.
for talking to us.
Don, I'll
All right,
talk to you
thank you.
later.
All right, bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye,
Okay.
Candace.
Let's put your
Thank you.
disclaimer.
It's fucking live, you dumb bitch. You are stupid, man.
I just discussed my bag. That's all I asked.
Fucking live, you fucking stupid bitch.
Oh, they just seen that. You're a dumbass. They just seen you punch me in my throat.
Whatever,
You're
man.
a dumbass. You're a real dumbass. You're a real dumb fucking ass. They just seen when you throw me in the punch. You know, you're a dumbass.
Did you just get?
I can listen to that over and over and over. I asked you to scratch my back. That's all I asked. You're a real dumb fucking ass. She don't know we're live and shit. She's acting like an alcoholic and shit. Oh, okay. Okay. And then you punch me in the cunt. I don't think so. Or his hand would be stuck all the way up to his fucking shoulder, Candace. We know how deep that cavern is. My God. All right, let's get to it. And again, you tell me what you think. I'm glad he is talking about the basics of the case. Meerkamp, gross. It's true. Okay, could you imagine being a gynecologist in Rogersville, Tennessee, Meerkamp? This is between you and me. Can you imagine the woman in Kingsport that gave her that bikini waxing and she had to go down her inner thighs to get all the brush away? Oh my God, Meerkamp.
Well, hey, folks, 5 years after Summer Moon Utah Wells vanished from her home in Hawkins County.
Okay, so we know it hasn't been 5 years. Okay, he rounded up. All right. It's not a real spiffy title that says 4.5 years and some change. Okay, so I'm going to give him that one. Okay, we know it hasn't been 5 years.
Tennessee. This case still remains unsolved. And in this episode, I want to take a fresh look at what the Summer Wells investigation is really all about. What actually has happened in the last year, and what the strongest theories look like when you start to peel back the rumors and you...
Dear God, sec to no one. Holy shit. Hell no. We saw how she funked up the pool at the motel. Well, she pooped in the motel pool. Let's go ahead and give sec to no one the comment of the day. Two Boston moms said this guy is from Utah. Well, I bet he's a Kansas City Chiefs fan, voted for Trump, and likes the OU Sooners. He's okay in my book, Boston. Just like you, we agree on everything.
Focus on the evidence, evaluate the sciences, and you think about the behavior, child behavior. I also want to talk about the investigative protocols that are being used by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations, because they say the case remains active. The Amber Alert remains active. The investigators are still working alongside FBI and the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office. And you know, they've also made it clear that there's still no publicly identified evidence that there was an abduction, but they're making it clear that they haven't ruled out any possibilities. So let's walk through 4 major questions, starting with what the Summer Wells investigation.
Okay, and the last time that I called the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, several things have not changed. Okay, persons of interest have not changed. And I hate to tell Fred the newlywed, he is on that short list. He is.
Investigation is really about. Then I want to talk about the main theories and what they look like after 5 years. I want to talk about the abduction, trafficking, murder, accident, and even natural causes as a cause for death. And third, I want to talk about the search and rescue research and what it says about how 5-year-old children can move, hide, become quiet, or get disoriented and remain hard to find, even if there's an aggressive search going on. Finally, I want to talk about what we can reasonably learn and not overclaim what we might be thinking after watching Dawn Wells and Candace Bly over time, including the pressure of losing their other children to the state, the later reporting that they've signed over their rights to the boys.
They did. They did. Another creator blasted out the paperwork. It's not something I would do. I've had it for 2 years, and I really didn't think there was anything more that needed to be proven about Don and Candace. But that's someone else's channel. I can't do anything about. I can't do anything about it. Just Me said, nothing natural about this case. Pickles. Oh, do tell Fred. Do tell. Fred is a said person of interest too. Yeah, he is.
And the way that grief, public suspicion, and repeated scrutiny can harden a family into a defensive posture. The bell, turn on your notifications. That way you won't miss a single episode when new video. I don't really know why. You know, you can see as I fly my drone over my property how difficult it would be, even in these better conditions of the trees being free of leaves, to locate a child.
See, I'm loving this because everyone is thinking about June 15th, 2021, and even the week leading back up. Okie Bree, how are you doing with all the storms we've been having? Said nobody has been ruled out publicly. Well, Jody Sue has, and so has Andy. So we do have that. Paul Hill has been. But the main monopoly players have not. And they're not cooperating.
And if Summer did die in 2021, imagine how difficult it would be to find her remains at this point. It's next to impossible. And frankly, the only way that someone could find her is if they stumbled across her. Summer Wells is a little girl from Hawkins County, Tennessee, who was reported missing on June 15th, 2021. From her home on Ben Hill Road in the Beach Creek community in Tennessee. Now, Summer was 5 years old. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation says this case remains active. The Amber Alert remains active. TBI says investigators continue to work with the FBI and with Hawkins County Sheriff's Office. And as recently as August of 2025, they released a new age-progressed image from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Then, in November of 2025, the investigators followed up on another lead roughly 10 miles from the family's home. Now, this was pretty important because it tells us that the case is not closed and that law enforcement is still reacting and moving on leads, even if they're not sharing things publicly. So that would take us into the first big segment that I want to talk about, and that is about what this case is about. Because at its core, this is a missing child case that's never been resolved. The local sheriff and the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations say there is no evidence of abduction in the case, although they continue to investigate all the possibilities. Now, they're investigating all possibilities that include things like foul play or the possibility that Summer wandered off and became lost in the rough, mountainous terrain surrounding her home. And that's kind of hard to imagine given the fact that you think she might be familiar with the area. But keep in mind, this is a 5-year-old child. This kind of information reminds us that investigators have nothing that suggests that a stranger abducted this child or that there was homicide by a family member, at least publicly. In addition, there isn't any evidence that suggests there was an accident in the woods, that there wasn't a suggestion there was an accident in water.
They've gone through all of that. I have put a poll up, and I really hope you guys take the poll because, again, we're going to get to the bare bones of this case. There was a lot of things that went on June 15th and the week leading up to. You have Dudley, you have Marlena, you have her daughter, you have CPS, you have Clyda Trent that had to stick her crooked fucking nose in everything.
What we're left with is just a bunch of unresolved possibilities. And TBI is even pushing back on the idea that this has become a cold case. They remind everybody on their website that while they've searched the area thoroughly, including the interior of the house, that they've searched vehicles and outbuildings, barrels, anything else on property. They've used canine teams. They've deployed dive teams. They put drones in the air. They put drones on water. They've conducted other aerial searches. They've analyzed the area geographically, and they've looked at this case from an investigative perspective, but they have nothing at this point. Now, to date, they say they've worked more than 6,500 tips and leads, and they have no trace of Summer, and that's frustrating.
Yes, it is, considering what some of those tips are. Some of those tips are YouTube fodder. They are. Well, Meerkam's not, and neither is Zach Walker, because they both gifted Crime Lines and Lies memberships. Welcome to the family.
But it's the kind of effort that shows us two things. Number one, that there is an extraordinary amount of work that has gone into this case. It shows how incredibly hard it is to solve a case when the starting point is sometimes a little confusing in a rural area. Now, the timeline is disputed or compressed a little bit. The evidence picture, clearly thin. The social media ecosystem keeps flooding investigators with all kinds of noise. But TBI repeatedly goes back to the public and says, please send us your tips. But don't base those tips on YouTube theories or Facebook rumors, because they are saying that they've had just a ton of misinformation. And that
There is tons, just like Sebastian's case. I mean, you have 2 children missing from Tennessee, and the facts are ignored. They're negated. It's like what the investigators say. There's a few people, and I don't mean any of you. They step over fact and go into a pothole full of drama.
That has really negatively impacted the investigation. And it makes sense. I mean, bad tips burn up the time that investigators have to manage all the other things that are going on in this investigation, not to mention the fact that they continue to still get new investigation cases every single day. So we have to give them a little bit of slack, because the noise created by all of this blurs the focus, and it takes tasks that people are then taken away from more important tasks to complete. In missing child cases, those early hours are everything. You know, I recently read a number of search and rescue studies as I thought about this video, and one in particular says that the probability of success decreases substantially after the first 24 hours. Now, that doesn't mean that Summer Wells can't be found now. It just means that the time lost at the beginning can have a brutal effect on finding Summer alive down the road. And we're now
Not 5 years yet. Please hold out hope. And the confusion in the beginning, I don't know if Mike knows this or not. The confusion in the beginning was from Dawn and Candace. Okay? Didn't know her age, didn't know her birthday, didn't have a current picture, and we know she did. She had taken a TikTok video at Warriors Park on the backside of her swimming with Hunter. I agree with you, Ilyanka. 90% of that YouTube disinformation, not misinformation, disinformation, came from Can't and Dawn.
5 years down the road. That 24 hours passed quickly. We're at the 5-year mark, and my initial assessment of the case remains the same. I find myself asking whether Summer is really still near her home or if perhaps she's miles away. I mean, it's possible that she encountered an environmental danger, or on the flip side, that somebody inside or outside of the family sphere caused her death or her disappearance. It's a possibility that she was removed forcibly from the property, but it's also a possibility that she just plain wandered off. So I want to spend a couple of minutes exploring some.
Not according to Josh Melton, the new TBI agent assigned to the case. He said everything has been cleared. She wandered off. She was abducted. The FBI card unit did that. Now, he didn't say the third, but we can fill in that piece of the puzzle. They have been looking at foul play from very early on. That's why the TBI agent was taken off the case that does nothing but control Amber Alerts. They knew the alert was going to stay up, but they knew she wasn't kidnapped. That's after the FBI card unit came. Now, I mean, I get where Mike is going, and he's going to entertain that she possibly could have just wandered off, and it's been all this time, and no one has come across her. It's very, very unlikely. Very unlikely. Especially with the unusually busy day that Can't had. By the way, speaking of unusually busy days, on my second channel, Next Topic with CLL, I have a show coming up at 12:30.
Some of these theories, starting with the theory that Summer wandered away and died in the woods. Now, this is the theory that a lot of people dismiss too quickly, in my opinion, because of those extensive searches that were going on. But search and rescue research clearly says not to dismiss this so quickly. TBI has openly stated that wandering off and becoming lost in the mountains in that rough terrain is one of the possibilities that's still on the table. I think it's a really strong possibility still. Now, search science tells us that well-run searches can still miss small children in heavy vegetation or broken terrain. I mean, think about the drainages and the hollows and the areas where it's difficult to see. The whole point of lost person behavior research is that searchers are fighting against time and terrain, against fatigue and weather and concealment and the child's own movement pattern. And that's not just theory on paper. I mean, the concept really hit me today as I took some personal.
Well, and this is a hard thing to talk about, but it's actually the absolute truth. Thank you, Poppy Red Mustang. Okay. When there is a dead species of any kind on the ground, it has a scent, and you will see turkey vultures, you will see buzzards, believe it or not, you will see eagles going around. A lot of search and rescue people look for birds in the sky to figure out where the person is. Hello, Lisa Durr. I have been missing you.
Time to go into the mountains and open up the cabin, because while I was there, I spent a little bit of time flying my drone around, looking at the forest floor and the surrounding terrain. I wanted to get a fresh sense of just how difficult it would be to spot a small child in the woods. Even now, it's hard, and the trees are free of so much. There are actually more favorable viewing conditions now than what existed when summer wells disappeared. That was, it's early spring now, and then it wasn't. The leaves still haven't come out on the trees now. The bushes aren't leafed out, and the grass and the low ground cover is relatively thin. So in other words, visibility right now is a whole lot better than it would have been when this child disappeared, because then the trees would have carried a full canopy. The underbrush would have been much thicker. The forest floor would have had much more visual clutter than we see today. And still today, you look with a drone, for instance, or even walking, and it's pretty dang difficult to see anything anywhere. Now, even in these better conditions of today, it is really easy to see how a small child on the ground could be missed, whether it was from the air or by searchers that are walking through the woods. So now.
Okay, let's talk about this really quick. Again, bare basics, bare bones of Summer's case. It's not talked about enough, and I am part of the problem. Okay, I hope you forgive me. I am part of the problem. Look, I don't want her to be found out in the woods, a rotting corpse. I don't. And that's a harsh, harsh thing to say. Buzzards around, turkey vultures, all that stuff. Flies buzzing around, no. But if you look at the equipment that was used, heat-seeking drones, okay? Heat-seeking drones. Everyone had to stand back, because obviously the heat-seeking drone would pick up people walking around searching for Summer. They actually got a special contract from Warner Robins in Georgia, and they have an airplane that can see through caves. And you're telling me with all that equipment, and I just touched the tip of the iceberg, that she's really out there in the woods somewhere? I don't see it. I'm not wishing worse. I'm just saying I don't see it.
Now, put that same child into the summer setting, and the difficulty increases. And I think this is one reason why we all need to be really careful about assuming that a mass search automatically means that the child wasn't out there. She still could be out there. Now, if Summer didn't wander off, if she didn't suffer an accident and die in the woods, recovery is only going to get harder with time because of decomposition or weather or scavenging animals. The natural breakdown and the scattering of remains all work against discovering her.
Very good point from just me. We've gone through how many hunting seasons since June 15th, 2021? How many? Duck, deer, pheasant. People come from all over to hunt in East Tennessee. That's how Breasia Terrell was found. She was found by fishermen.
Body. At this point, finding her in that environment would feel almost miraculous. And realistically, I think it's going to take somebody stumbling across her by chance, unless if foul play was involved, that somebody finally decided to come forward and tell the truth. But my experience in going to disposal sites with killers, even years later, have a difficult time going to the exact location.
Boy, I'm interrupting left and right, but you guys are making incredible points. Kimberly said, or mushroom hunters. Let's not forget about the ginseng trade in East Tennessee. They're all over it. I'm talking they comb through. They're not stomping through the Johnson grass. They have magnifying glasses. They have all kinds of stuff going on to find this ginseng and sell it.
I think they get to the general area pretty safely, but finding that exact location is just next to impossible. In fact, when we think about the recovery of the Ames child in the Ted Bundy case, in that particular instance, a man found her body just hours after it had been dropped. He walked out, contacted the authorities.
Here I go again. Aggie said, fishermen that belong in your group, Brooks. Not anymore. I took it down. Those people are crazy. Remember how you always had to help me with them, Aggie? And Sister Karen, thank you so much for the super sticker. We're all mad here. Oh, girl, where have you been? I've been missing you. Ginseng is what we call it here in Tennessee. So let me ask you this. We're all mad here. What would be the possibility of Summer Wells just being out there somewhere with all of the commotion from hunters that hunt pheasant? That's a big thing in East Tennessee. I actually have a neighbor that goes out there every year to hunt pheasant. Deer. And then, of course, you have the ginseng, or however you say it. What are the odds?
And returned to the site, and it still took him an incredible amount of time to find the body that he had stumbled across. In fact, I want to just play this recent interview with the man 50 years later, talking about how difficult it was to find that site.
Laura Ann Amy is one of dozens of victims now linked by DNA to Bundy. He was executed in 1989.
The confirmation carries significance for the man who actually found her body.
I smell what he's stepping in, but I can tell you right now, this is not a Bundy situation. All arrows point to the dysfunctional life that is led on Ben Hill Road. Okay? I'm just telling you, it is. When I think about Chris McDonough, who was there live in person, he knew Dawn was hiding in the shed, and he flat out said, don't leave the hill. Don't leave the hill. Don't do it. I see what he's talking about, you know, about how it took years to solve another one of Bundy's murders. I just don't see how it is comparable, but we're just having a reaction video. We're cool.
He spoke exclusively with our KSL's Dave Cawley, and he joins us now on set here. And Dave, you talked a little bit about how he remembers this almost like it was yesterday.
So I've always remembered her name. I've always remembered her as a human being.
Ray Ivins has never forgotten what happened on the day before Thanksgiving in 1974. He still remembers every detail.
After 50 years, right? It's pretty amazing that you found me and that we're sitting here talking about it. That's a lot of time.
Ray was just a young BYU student at the time who took his girlfriend on a hike up American Fork Canyon.
And since it was November, the leaves on the trees fall off, and I had noticed a trail that I'd never seen before and wanted to go discover.
They parked at a pullout near the Timpanogos Cave Visitor Center.
Seeing that there's a river, had to get out of my car and go down and across the river. The river's running maybe a foot deep or so, so you've got to pick yourself across.
Then scramble up a steep slope to the trail on the opposite side.
And we started walking down it towards the where Timpanogos.
Jeez. Toots said agree, not leaving the crap house. Lisa has a thought. Brooks, I have wondered if Summer could be in a 5-gallon drywall bucket buried or dumped in water. Well, considering Dawn has said she's fish food now, who would know? Who would know? Okay, I'm going to skip through this Ted Bundy thing because it is not relevant to this case.
Safe. And once they're injured, if they're frightened or overheated, dehydrated, hypothermic, then movements can become really erratic and even limited. Search and rescue teams work on that modeling process, and they use these behavioral profiles as they search, because movement is the thing that helps them be a little more intuitive in finding locations where someone might be. Now, these models suggest that survival and successful rescues drop with time, which is, again, why the early route prediction mattered so much back then, and why the passage of 5 years is so dang long. Because with that kind of understanding, we can take the geography of the Beech Creek area into consideration, the rural ground coverage.
Which at this point means nothing. Wendy, she said, not off the hill. She never came home on the hill that day. She already was away. This has been my theory for a long time, especially since the Forensic Crime Lab from Nashville and one from Knoxville sprayed luminol everywhere. They went under the house. I mean, everywhere around there. They had canine dogs, and they had like the regular scent pulling dogs. And now we have a new investigation going on Van Hill Road, and they are not done over there. They are not done. I know everyone thought it was going to take like a day and we would have answers. An investigation takes time. I don't like it. You don't like it, but we want it done right. I mean, like right now, look how long it's been with Athena Strand. We have a whole playlist on her. Okay? And it's crazy what's going on in that courtroom. Okay? And for the millionth time, criminals lie. His whole story was he accidentally hit Athena, got scared, picked her up, and went and put her somewhere. Daisy did a whole show about it and said, that's probably what happened this summer. See, everybody jumps to conclusions. That's probably what happened this summer. She probably got hit by a FedEx man and they just picked her up. And I'm like, you idiot. Criminals lie. And we know his whole story was a lie. And the truth is a million times worse.
The mixed cover, the slopes, the water. It's a tough rural area. Cameras are limited, although there might be some game cameras in the woods. But again, after 5 years, I think those would have been checked. Now, there aren't many homes and businesses in the area. And there's a whole lot of forest. So taking all this into consideration, we still can't discount the possibility that Summer Wells may have wandered off and had an accident. And it doesn't matter how hard people searched. It's still possible that they missed her location and then they checked the area off as being cleared. Now, if we think about the possibility of drowning, there are a number of creeks and bogs in the area. And I created a map in one of my earlier videos that you can go back where I look and talk about all of the creeks and bogs. Most people are concentrating on that swimming hole and the videos that have been passed around. Well,
I'm not worried about the swimming hole, and I'm not worried about the milk jugs. I don't think she made it back home. I'm just telling you, I don't think she made it back home. Two Boston moms. Brooks, your Daisy impression is spot on. She's a dumb fuck, okay? I could not believe when she did that whole show and she's like, I bet that's what happened Summer. Same thing that happened that little Athena Strand. But she kept calling her Andrea. Andrea Strand. That's what happened, that little Andrea Strand. That's what happened. She got hit by the FedEx truck. And I'm like, nah. No, criminals lie. I'm telling you right now. anyone that says they confessed, you better figure out who's pulling which leg. Criminals are not like that. Look at the title of my channel, Crimes. Lines, as in time, and lies. Criminals lie. But boy, I miss Daisy. Her medical advice was the best. Oh my God. I think I rewatched the show when she lit her kitchen on fire 3 times. Shit, the bed. I couldn't believe it. She poured water on a grease fire. She had like 5-day-old bacon grease in there. Fuck me.
If this child made it home, it's still possible that she could have drowned near the home. And expert diver groups say that individuals are next to impossible to find in the water. And that's why you see most of these search teams on YouTube, when they go out, they're looking for a vehicle and hopefully someone's still inside that vehicle, because the vehicle is big enough to find. When the body decomposes, the bones just drift into the silt at the bottom of the waterway. Now, TBI reported that their dive team searched multiple bodies of water on multiple occasions. They also used drones to map the bodies of water and other points of interest. Now, that doesn't prove that drowning happened or didn't happen. Water cases are incredibly deceptive, and the access points become really important, especially in a case like this, because they pertain to the possible route that Summer Wells might have taken if she did, in fact, walk away. Again, there is a lot of water. Most of the creeks at that time of year still have a lot of water in them. But add to that culverts and drainage ditches.
All of that has been checked. I'm not arguing with Mike at all. I'm just saying that we have been following this for a very long time, so we know what was checked. As far as a culvert, there is not one, unless she skedaddled like way down the road, like 20 miles away. There's culverts there, okay? Then you get to my favorite detective, Tricia Jenkins, that had a lot of questions about, I'm going to call it a stream or a brook that kind of babbles at the bottom of their property, okay? She wanted to know how to get across it. Yes, that's right, my friends. She wanted to know how to get across it. And I'm like, I don't think you're going to need a pontoon boat for this one. Basically, you just put your right foot down, you step with your left, and then you bring the other foot over and you're across it. You're good, girlfriend. You're good. All the water has been searched. It doesn't mean they shouldn't do it again. And when people say Adventures with Purpose tried to help, they said they couldn't, because what they do is they use their magnets to find cars. They don't have the equipment to look for bodies in lakes and ponds. And speaking of Adventures with Purpose, it looks like old pervert Jared got off his charges in Utah and he's back to doing Adventures with Purpose. What to do? What to do?
Debris basins. The recovery process could quickly become really complicated. So in my opinion, drowning remains a possibility. Although I personally don't think it's a result of the old swimming hole, although many people are out there making some pretty compelling arguments about Summer's reported behavior in the car after going swimming. So now I want to shift from accident to something a little more predatory, abduction. And this is the theory that Don Wells continues to push publicly, even in his most recent interviews over the past couple of years. Now, Don believes that Summer was kidnapped, but we've got to weigh that against the TBI's public position, which is a whole lot more restrained, because they say There is no evidence of abduction. Now, that doesn't mean that Don's wrong. There's just nothing to corroborate what this feeling is that he has. Now, the TBI's updates also say that there was no evidence that she was abducted, while at the same time, they say there's no evidence to suggest foul play. So that kind of leaves wandering off as still a possibility. You see, non-family abductions are rare in the national data, at least according to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, who say that non-family abductions only account for about 1% of missing child cases. In other words, 99% of the people who take children are not the boogeyman in the trench coat in the back alley. Now, NCMEC's data also shows that attempted non-family abductions happen more often on a street, around school travel avenues, or while children are playing outside, riding their bike or walking. But this does not mean.
In the 5 years I've been doing this show, I've only heard of a few true abductions. Okay. Sean Hornbeck and Ben Owensby. Cat Lady, who's in here, please give her some internet hugs, her daughter. Michael Vaughn. The 3 women in Cleveland that were kidnapped and kept for 10 years and some change. It's extremely rare. It's extremely rare.
That rural abductions never happen. So we can't discount the possibility.
Of course, there's Elizabeth Smart, there's JC Dugard, there's Jamie Kloss out of Wisconsin. I just haven't done shows about any of them. I'm just saying it's a gnat's ass. That's how rare it is. Now you add another rarity to it, and that's a big ass damn mountain you got to get up just to find the child. And the fact that they have been gone all day with a ton of silly errands. Hippie House, Sonic, Warriors Park, and don't get me going on Grandis having to get a shot in her plastic freaking knee.
This summer might have fallen victim to an opportunistic predator who happened to be passing by at the right time. And that leads me to this idea of human trafficking. There is a lot of online discussion that leans in this direction, and it is emotionally charged. And as an investigator, I think we have to be disciplined here, because in missing child cases nationally, the biggest categories aren't that mysterious stranger who's lurking in rural areas. The majority of missing child cases, some 97%, involve runaways, albeit most are teenagers, not 5-year-old children. Those children might be abducted by family members. But for Summer's case, trafficking is not impossible.
And that is very common. Okay. I'm telling you, every time we get an Amber Alert in Oklahoma, it's either a mama, a grandma, or a daddy that has taken their own children. And I'm talking 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 45 minutes later, they find said child. And there you go. Those are family dynamics. Okay. Now he's talking about child trafficking. Okay. I have so many theories about what happened to little beautiful Summer that I don't even know where to go. Did she make it home? At this point, I don't think so. All the evidence does not have a fresh scent of her. Did Don keep her in the shed that Fred, the newlywed, talks about right there at the road where Fred said they were advertising sex? And Ernie Shell was invited to a sex party with Coca-Cola and lube.
Possible, but based on public reporting, there's no official evidence that would point in that direction. So that causes me to think a little more about the possibility of murder, whether by someone in the inner circle or some opportunistic predator who was passing by. Now, TBI mentions that they are exploring all possibilities, including foul play. And the previously reported investigative steps seem to support all of this. But again, think about this. Don Wells himself talks about how he and Candace were questioned and looked at as potential predators. The search warrants on their homes suggest that. Multiple times support that kind of focus.
I am so glad Mike brought this up because he is 100% spot on, as if I had his resume or credentials, okay? I'm just kind of acting like we're peer to peer here. He's exactly right. Exactly right. The searches that went on at the house shows one thing and one thing over. They believe someone in that household has something to do with Summer disappearing. Okay? I don't believe Grandis. I don't believe that they got the milk and the cheese out of the back of her unair-conditioned truck. They drove for 45 minutes with the milk and cheese. And she said, the boys helped bring in too. She goes, then she said, oh, and Summer. Summer wasn't there. Summer cannot be the afterthought of the day when Summer is the one missing. Why is she missing? Well, probably that CPS paperwork that's been floating all over the internet. And no, I did not do it, but it's out. And it's raining. Thank you, Angel P.
Analysis that has likely occurred on digital data or the interviews conducted with family members repeatedly tells us that law enforcement looked hard at human causation as well as this, and that family was focused on for a time at least. So let me just pause for a moment, because this case is a perfect example of why historians often project adult logic onto a child, and that can be a real big mistake. Lost person behavior research exists because lost children, hikers, dementia subjects, hunters, others don't move in the ways that people think they do.
Not so fun fact. Do you know what state has the most missing people? Alaska, because of all of the hikers. Now, Summer does not have dementia. Summer was not hiking. And I get what he's doing. I get what he's putting out there. He's forcing a conversation. And personally, I like it. I like to think. I never have my mind made up.
This search planning literature was designed to help rescuers predict what people are likely to do, where they're likely to go, and how quickly they might become difficult to find. Now, the science...
Ooh. Jack of all trades said, milk and cheese alone do not constitute groceries, at least not in my world. I'm back and froed a truck like 6 times. Are you a 2-trip bitch or a 1-trip bitch? Do you basically throw out your shoulder bringing the groceries in? But I will say, Candace still had Wick on Summer, because Summer had just turned 5 in February. And so all the milk, cheese, cereal, and juicy juice was her WIC voucher. Now, you think, why is that important, Brooks? Why is it important? Because she filled that voucher that day. She hadn't bought any milk and cheese before. She just let her vouchers expire, but she was taking up all kinds of time that day. Janaka. Who drove Jose to New York? He didn't go to New York. He went to Rock Hill, South Carolina, and Grandis took him. After he gave the pogo stick to Allie, Hunter's mom, and he witnessed Hunter with, if you know what I mean, Can.
This isn't saying that every child behaves the same. It's just saying that enough patterns recur that planners can make better decisions than simply going out and guessing. So for a child that was Summer Wells' age, 5 years old, several things really matter. First and foremost, familiarity. And this can cut in two ways, because a child who is familiar with an area might move further than outsiders expect because the environment doesn't feel foreign to them, at least at first. Now, that same confidence can quickly fall apart once the child leaves those recognized landmarks, or they drop into brush that they're not familiar with, following a game trail or walking downhill. So in dense or broken terrain, a short distance error could become a total disorientation in just a matter of minutes. And it's also important to understand that children might not respond the way adults expect. Their decisions are quickly influenced by fear or shame, confusion. If they're
Okay, no offense to Mike, I'm telling you right now, he does not know Dawn or Candace. These people feel no shame, no regret, no remorse. All they ever feel is relief. I got away with that. Then they're back to life as normal. That's how they operate. Could you imagine being that stressed out over your actions, whatever they might be, and the only emotion that you can gather is relief? When CPS in the state of Tennessee say, okay, well, we won't prosecute you, just sign your children over and they will be adopted. Oh, okay, I got nothing else to do today. Well, I got away with that one. Gets a hold of Jinkies and said, we were scared to death we were going to get charged with SA. Those are facts.
they're hurt, if they're exhausted or in shock. And as searchers, when we call out the name, we think they're going to yell back, and they might. But if they're injured or frightened or ashamed, they might stay put. They might hide. They might become quiet. And their silence doesn't necessarily mean that they're absent from an area. Sometimes silence means that the child is frankly overwhelmed. And that's one reason why search and rescue teams emphasize the rapid, targeted, behavior-informed searching rather than just broad-based calling and waiting. Now, the terrain being searched becomes so much more than just a grid. Researchers who evaluate lost person behavior models note that good planning is about probability mapping, picking the area most likely, because some areas are more likely than others to be the place the child might go. The goal isn't to search everywhere at the same time equally. It's to search the right places first.
They did a military grade search. That is where you've got two people looking down, two people looking up, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and they're shoulder to shoulder. It went on for 2 weeks. Problem is, all the dogs they brought out could never get a scent of summer.
But the planning has to take into consideration the vegetation, the terrain, animal activity, or the weather. Now, children don't need to travel very far to disappear from view. And this is difficult to accept, but the words that she couldn't have gone far may be the first indicator of the search area. I mean, we do it with drive times on vehicles when a suspect flees a crime scene. And I suspect we're doing it with missing children in a search. In rugged country, a very short movement pattern could put a child well below the line of sight, into a hollow, or under a root mass, or hiding in the rocks or in the water. And that's one reason why I keep going back to this idea that she might have walked off and succumbed. It just makes geographic and behavioral sense to me. But the possibilities are endless. The probabilities are what drives investigative strategies. And that leads me to ask what the real chances are that Summer Wells is still alive. And what are the possibilities that she will one day turn up after living for years in some other neck of the woods? In fact, I want to just go over to a quick story where a woman was discovered decades after she disappeared at the age of 13 or 14. Let's catch that.
A decades-old cold case in Arizona has now been solved. A 13-year-old.
Okay, her family got her away from her parents. So that has nothing to do with Summer.
In an analysis of cases from 2021 through 2023, 117 children were recovered after being missing for more than a decade or longer. And nearly 6,800 children were recovered after being missing for 6 months or longer. I mean, that is incredibly optimistic sounding when you consider that cases are periodically just being reported in the news.
Does anyone have a pen and paper? Anyone? Today is April 28th, 2026. It is 10:04 a.m. And 2 Boston moms is agreeing with everything I have said on this show today. God bless America. Hint, round of applause for me. Janaka said, Mike needs to be brought up to date. Beer Camp said, I'll put that on my calendar. We're going to have a party next year. I just don't know what she's going to get me. I'll just send her an Amazon list.
And exploited children said that in an analysis of cases from 2021 through 2023, 117 children were recovered after being missing for more than a decade or longer. And nearly 6,800 children were recovered after being missing for 6 months or longer. I mean, that is incredibly optimistic sounding when you consider that cases are periodically just being reported in the news. The chances that Summer could come back statistically are against her, but we can't give up hope. Now, the downside to these statistics is
he's right. He is right. Okay. Statistically speaking, as Dawn said to Jeff Bobo on June 18th, 2021, statistics don't look good, man. Statistics don't look good, man. Like he even knows what that means. But he's right. Mike is right. If she has not been found somewhere around her house, I mean, I'll give you about a 5-mile radius, and that is being generous. Okay? That is being generous. We have the huge suspicion with the CPS reports, Dawn's behavior, Candace's behavior, Grandis's behavior, the fact that she hightailed it out of Tennessee to go hang out with her pedophile brother, Warren Harrer. The icing on the cake, if you want to call it that, is the fact that Rose Bly is also missing. And Dawn and Candace have no custody of any child. Rights have been extinguished in 3 states now. Is that a coincidence, or do you call that evidence?
That of the 97% who are recovered after 6 months, those involved runaways and family abductions. And that's not really the public profile of a Summer Wells. This 5-year-old child, there were no known custodial situations going on. So yeah, a child can surface alive after years, but statistically, this kind of a case is not the same as the Summer Wells case. And that leaves me pondering what we can learn after 5 years of watching the Wells parents and the dynamic between them and the police department. Now, many people were troubled by the way that Dawn and Candace responded during those high-profile months after Summer's disappearance. It's really important that we remind ourselves that we've never met the Wells family before this disaster. We didn't know their personalities then, and frankly, I don't think we really know their personalities now. A parent can sound
I think I know their personalities pretty well. I do. Okay. Now I understand that Mike is very religious. Okay. Very religious. And so he doesn't like to accuse people. No one here is accusing anyone. But like Poppy Red Mustang said, oh my God, I love, just trying to picture it in my mind. I'm thinking more of like a cherry red, like red dye number 4 that's illegal now on that Mustang. Anyway, I think we know their personalities pretty good. And I can tell right now by the look on Mike's face, he has never had a conversation with Dawn and Candace. And that is okay. That is okay. Because I don't think Mike would like to be told, you're just jealous, you've never been raped, even a nigger wouldn't rape you. That came from the poet laureate, Dawn Wells. And then later in the conversation, I heard clinging and clanging, and it was Candace slamming doors and called me a pussy fart. So Mike should probably talk to him, okay? I'm just saying. But again, I'm super happy that he did this show to put more of a light on Summer.
Wells parents and the dynamic between them and the police department. Now, many people were troubled by the way that Dawn and Candace responded during those high-profile months after Summer's disappearance. It's really important that we remind ourselves that we've never met the Wells family before this disaster. We didn't know their personalities then, and frankly, I don't think we really know their personalities now. A parent can sound flat.
They've never sounded flat to me. And I mean, ever. Crystal, Crime Lies and Lies, could you please look in to what? What am I looking at? I'm not going to research pussy fart for you, Crystal Burns, 2001.
During those high-profile months after Summer's disappearance. It's really important that we remind ourselves that we've never met the Wells family before this disaster. We didn't know their personalities then, and frankly, I don't think we really know their personalities now. A parent can sound flat, chaotic or angry, devout, defensive, inconsistent, or they can feel or sound exhausted for many different reasons. I mean, think about trauma and poverty and substance abuse, public harassment, or guilt and what that can do to people. This doesn't mean that they committed a crime. It only means that they don't fit what you think a fearful, grieving parent should act like. And you and I might be wrong. So we should check our own opinions at the door so that we don't jump from the, I don't like how they sounded, to
listen, it's been almost 5 years. Okay. Rough start, I get. Okay. Crystal Burns, can you look into the John Lucas case? Please, sorry about that. But he was hit and dragged by an ambulance. What? Yeah. Email that to me and I will definitely look at that. And Two Boston Moms doesn't really like Candace's adjectives for what she calls me. She had to clean it up a little bit. Oh my God. By the way, Two Boston Moms, we're going to celebrate this day next April, okay? And I'm just going to let you know, I've got a big rack and a big ass and a small waist, okay? So you go ahead and you start planning that now, because everybody remembers you've agreed with everything I've said today.
Abuse, public harassment, or guilt and what that can do to people. This doesn't mean that they committed a crime. It only means that they don't fit what you think a fearful, grieving parent should act like. And you and I might be wrong. So we should check our own opinions at the door so that we don't jump from the, I don't like how they sounded, to the idea that, hey, I don't understand. And judgment would be an unfair assessment. This we can't say. Over time, Dawn Wells has stayed committed to the idea that there was a kidnapping. Even in
Pug Mom said last week they found 3 children's skulls in Knott's, Tennessee. Saw it on the news. Where's Knott's, Tennessee? I heard about 3 children being found outside of Memphis, and everyone assumes it's the Skelton brothers. Where the hell is Knott's, Tennessee? I didn't hear about this.
24 and 25, he had interviews where he said he believes Summer was taken and that she was there one minute, gone the next, and that she's been trafficked humanly. At the same time, both parents have increasingly framed themselves as targets of the social media attacks, even of local authorities and the Department of Children's Services. Now, local reporting in 24 and 25 said that they ultimately signed over the rights to their 3 boys to the state. Now, I believe Dawn posted some online documents complaining that DCS, that they have dismissed all of the abuse and neglect charges against them, adding that if Summer were found, he believes that she could come home to be with him and Candace.
Nope, not going to happen. They did not prosecute Dawn and Candace for a lot of reasons. Nana for Life spoke to Ronnie Lawson. Do not fret, do not sweat, because there will be a new sheriff next month, and he can pick it up and he can give it to lazy ass Dan Armstrong and tell him, listen, the last sheriff didn't get to this file. Can you do something with it? Okay. No one just signs their kids over. They just don't do it. Okay. And they certainly don't get celebrated on Daisy's channel or White Boys or any of them saying, oh, they did the most selfless thing ever. They gave the boys a new lauded life. And I'm like, that is not what happened. No, sir. No. No, that is not what happened.
He believes Summer was taken and that she was there 1 minute, gone the next, and that she's been trafficked humanly. At the same time, both parents have increasingly framed themselves as targets of the social media attacks, even of local authorities and the Department of Children's Services. Now, local reporting in 24 and 25 said that they ultimately signed over the rights to their 3 boys to the state. Now, I believe Dawn posted some online documents complaining that DCS, that they have dismissed all of the abuse and neglect charges against them, adding that if Summer were found, he believes that she could come home to be with him and Candace. So I don't know, you might find that. And if you do find it, send it to me. But if you're like me, you're probably finding yourself at.
I can send you a whole playlist, Mike. And both Dawn and Candace have said that. If Summer is found, she'll just come back home with us. Will not happen. Will not happen. I'm telling you right now. They do pay attention to both Dawn and Candace's mannerisms. They do. They know when people were talking about a little girl that resembled Summer in Jonesboro, Arkansas, everybody was like, oh my God, could it be her? Could it be her? Could it be her? Could it be her? Guess who didn't care? Candace. Dawn was in jail. I don't know if they told him or not. Grandis didn't care. When they did the second search in March of 2022, she said they were playing a board game. You weren't concerned about a search for your daughter?
Asking the same question. If that's the case, then why would the parents give up the rights to their children? And there might be several reasons. One is that it might be a legal decision that they made based on finances, that reunification was out of reach or perhaps too financially challenging for them. It could also reflect a family that's under such chronic scrutiny and they're so dysfunctional that the parents no longer believe that they could satisfy the court of the responsibility.
He said it, not me. He said, and they're so dysfunctional. They are. I'm telling you, they are.
They would have to care for the boys and Summer if she ever returns. You know, I wondered if their marriage would survive the pressure of what happened to them. Well, it has survived. And that makes me wonder if the loss of Summer and the boys became the glue that bound them together against these common enemies, or if the couple stayed together because it made them stronger. Many would think that it could be something that would cause them to drift apart. I guess it can go both ways. Some couples stay together regardless of their grief, fear, or dependency.
Or, just throwing it out there, they could be partners in crime. You just never know. Hello, Sal80. Look at that. One of our original members. And Helen, someone, my goodness, thank you for the super sticker. What am I going to do with you? Janaka said it's the drugs and booze. It's the drugs and booze. Well, Mike's trying to be fair. And I get it. I get it. Some of us have a little thicker skin when it comes to the Wells now, especially someone who will remain nameless on this channel that was called a pussy fart by Candace Wells. Okay? So he is trying to be fair. He is really going down that rabbit hole of she honestly could have just wandered off. But then he did mention that the TBI said nobody abducted her. We're left with one thing, and it's called foul play. Now, if you want to do this yourself, you can. You can call Hawkins County yourself. They are going to say that the investigation on Van Hill Road is still open. They have found a breadcrumb, and that's what they're working on. TBI says they're working with the FBI. FBI TBI says they're working with those losers in Hawkins County. True story. Marie said, shaking my fucking head, do y'all really think the Wells is going to hop on YouTube and say what they done this summer? Heck no, they are not. And this is why all kinds of garbage going around YouTube. Well, thank you for your encouragement, Marie. And I don't think anyone expected Dawn and Candace to come clean. We're actually thinking about law enforcement and the second wind in their investigation.
And the boys became the glue that bound them together against these common enemies, or if the couple stayed together because it made them stronger. Many would think that it could be something that would cause them to drift apart. I guess it can go both ways. Some couples stay together regardless of their grief, fear, or dependency. Others fall apart and separate. But what stands out to me are their public statements. They aren't a clear indicator of guilt or innocence, but they're a pattern of narrowed.
Crystal Burns, Crime Lines and Lies. You emailed you. I didn't email. You emailed me? Okay, perfect. Marie is Lisa Jetton, okay? She used to live in a shed behind Dawn and Pam. And her child was taken by Arkansas Child Protective Services, okay? And that's what happened.
Against these common enemies, or if the couple stayed together because it made them stronger. Many would think that it could be something that would cause them to drift apart. I guess it can go both ways. Some couples stay together regardless of their grief, fear, or dependency. Others fall apart and separate. But what stands out to me are their public statements. They aren't a clear indicator of guilt or innocence, but they're a pattern of narrowed messaging. The themes seem pretty consistent that somebody took Summer and the authorities are treating him unfairly. And they say that social media has destroyed their life. Well, one thing that I think is clear is it hasn't destroyed their faith. They seem to be unified in the messaging that they want their children home. And all of this doesn't clear them from consideration, but it shouldn't condemn them either. And all of this might explain why.
Well, I can't condemn them. Can any of you? No. That is a judge and jury that does that. When that gavel goes down and says a jury of your peers has made a decision. My problem is, well, I've got 1.5 million. If Ronnie Lawson, which we know he did, covered up the essay of the 3 boys, what else has he covered up? What has not made its way to Dan Armstrong's desk, and why? Because at this point, there are a lot of things they could have arrested Don and Candace for. And his DUI on Van Hill Road is the least of my worries. He went way out of his way to go to town and get cigarettes or whatever he was doing. If he did not put that on the DA's desk, what else did he not put there? I know he'll look like a hypocrite if he goes after them for SA, because everybody in the county knows about his son, Brandon Lawson. Everyone knows. Everyone knows. He did it to Ronnie Lawson's granddaughter. He knows. Nana for Life said, good morning. There's a buggy of groceries they purchased June 15th, 2021 picture on the last hour of Gavel Geeks last live for your information. So it was more than cheese and milk is what you're saying? I don't know.
Why the couple isn't talking publicly anymore. And there might actually be a couple of answers for this. First, that law enforcement keeps reminding everyone that they need to preserve the integrity of the investigation and that they need to limit what they're sharing. The Wells family might be modeling that behavior, and after years of public scrutiny, realize that just saying less is easier. But here we are, the 5-year mark, and the official picture still supports multiple possibilities, but it doesn't support them equally. The trafficking narrative remains in the forefront, although it seems like it's built more on emotion and not evidence. The opportunistic abduction also isn't supported by evidence. The possibility of a homicide or concealment after an accident.
Okay, the truth is, we don't have the evidence. We don't know what's in that manila folder. And there's probably 600 of them right now that have red tape across them that say Summer Wells, 6/15/21. We don't know their evidence. None. Do we see what Don and Candace do? Yep. Do we see what Grandis does? Here and there, not impressive. Do we know there's some neighbors that change their stories all the time? For sure. No reason for it. No reason for it at all. None. Do we know they're taking down flyers to mess with Nana for Life? Yeah, we know that. And that's a bad way to spend your time on planet Earth with your daughter missing. Really is.
Still remains a consideration, but it too is unsupported by any evidence that's public. So that leaves me where I started 5 years ago, that the lost child death theory remains stubbornly plausible, even after extensive searches, because the terrain, the age, the time window, the limits of the search all support the possibility that they could have walked right past her. And with all of this, the most honest thing that we can say is that 5 years later, this case still hasn't given the public any single facts that can collapse any of the theories. And that's why it still haunts the true crime community. And it isn't because we can't resolve this mystery. It's because a little blonde-haired, 5-year-old, beautiful little girl who'd be 10 years old today is still missing. You know,
and he knows better than this. You don't launch a criminal investigation and get the FBI and TBI involved because you think she wandered off into the woods. Oh, look at that cat. But you don't run a criminal investigation if the child wandered off. No, you don't. You don't. I mean, it's a sore subject with a lot of people when they say, but the child ran away. That's a totally different investigation. Totally different. Miss Mama said they can prosecute without a body. It's almost impossible to do. And I don't think Dan Armstrong is that smart, to be quite honest. I don't think he is. I don't think that a jury of their peers would buy a crime without the body. I just don't. And also, I don't know what is tucked in that manila folder, or all 600 of them, that hasn't been given to the DA.
Summer Wells' investigation is about finding whether a little girl was lost to the land, stolen by a person, or part of a secret that somebody still hasn't told. And the theories aren't equal to one another. Some of the theories are emotionally loud, while others seem operationally sound. But in my opinion, the behavior of a 5-year-old girl in the woods makes accidental loss more realistic than people want to think. Summer Moon Wells still deserves what she deserved on day one. She deserves a disciplined investigation. She deserves...
Oh, he doesn't even know her name. Shit. It's Summer Moon Utah Wells. Okay? I don't think he understands that they have another person missing in the family as well. Again, I'm glad he used his platform to talk about Summer. Okay? I am.
accidental loss more realistic than people want to think. Summer Moon Wells still deserves what she deserved on day one. She deserves a disciplined investigation. She deserves credible tips. She deserves the kind of attention that helps the case instead of hurts it. And I hope that if you know anything about this case, that you'll reach out to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations or to the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office. And I'd really love to get your thoughts on this. I hope that you'll keep this little girl in your thoughts and prayers, and that you'll enter your comments down below, and that they'll be respectful. This is still a missing child case, and there's a difference between careful analysis and reckless accusations. So if you know something real, something firsthand that's credible, the place to take it is not in a chat room or not to a comment section. It's to take it to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation.
Oh, God, but I like to chat with my friends. What the hell is going on around here? I like to chat with my friends. I don't want to bother the police with what I think. No.
That you'll keep this little girl in your thoughts and prayers, and that you'll enter your comments down below, and that they'll be respectful. This is still a missing child case, and there's a difference between careful analysis and reckless accusations. So if you know something real, something firsthand that's credible, the place to take it is not in a chat room or not to a comment section. It's to take it to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations at 1-800-TBI-FIND. And I hope you'll take a moment to hit the like and subscribe button.
Okay, again, I understand he's not well versed on the case. You all are. Helen someone is. Ilyanka is. Angel P is. Mrs. Mama. Pat K. Cat. Just me? Okay, he's not. I'm not going to hold it against him because he shined a light on Summer, which I think is important. Did he have, some times wrong? Yes, he did. Did he round up to 5 years? Yeah, that was tough to see. That was tough to see. Not gonna lie, that was a tough one. I think at the end of the day, he wants to say that she just wandered off. But he contradicted himself by saying all of the searches are aimed at the parents. He said it, not me. But I tell you what, in 2 hours, you're going to hear me basically roast myself on the other channel. Next topic was CLL, because our good old buddy, A Balance, has come after me again. And this one is hilarious. So I will see you guys back on the other channel in 2 hours. Okay? There it is. And now Brooks is going to put together her egg maker, because I want to have some deviled eggs for dinner and a pork steak. In the meantime, while I'm doing that, you guys get ready for the next show at 12:30 my time. 2 hours. Love you.